Luginen, okay. It's a difficult name. But this specific internet graph has a lot of details because it addresses mostly a registry. A registry is a specific kind of zone operator, and people have to put a lot of trust into their registry, and thus a lot of details, security details have to be defined in a practices statement. For a smaller company, a lot of those paragraphs that are present in this internet graph can be no stipulation, filled with no stipulation. But you need this specific format in order to allow companies that do audits to follow them and to follow the format, to know the format and make it easier for them to audit your implementation, if that's required from you, of course. Also, while these practice statements may only be applicable for a single domain holder, a regulatory authority or a policy-making body may want to define requirements for assigning policy for DNSSEC in a specific area or on specific CCTLD. These also things have to be considered and be documented as well. Any TLD, okay, I don't know. Policy into a, yeah. So I'll go briefly into the list of the considerations that have to be made. 3 minutes, okay, I'll try to be fast. So the first most important thing is to put a value on your DNS system and a value into the signed zone you are having, which is a result of a risk analysis, actually. How much value do you put on your DNS? Based on that value, you can decide what level of protection you are putting into the DNSSEC implementation itself. How do you do your key management? What products do you use in order to be secure enough? So this is a very important thing, risk analysis and giving a value to your DNS data. Then you have to design the system, the signing system, the architecture, make sure that you don't need to change your DNS architecture in order to deploy DNSSEC. You have to integrate DNSSEC signing into your existing architecture. You have to consider which algorithms you will use, what validity periods you will put into this architecture. Then you have to consider if you have privacy concerns. If you are interested to hide the contents of your zone, which means if you will allow zone enumeration or you will disallow this. Keys. Keys are an important thing on a DNSSEC implementation. How do you generate them? How you store them? How you do your rollovers? What is the size of the key that you will be using? Of course, these parameters correlate with each other, and these are the considerations that have to be made. Oops, that's the other one. So then you have to see into performance issues. If you have like Telecom Italia or Telia, millions of users using your resolvers, then there are performance issues if there are a lot of signed data. Performance issues include CPU, include bandwidth, include storage of the systems and memory of the systems. Then you have to create a plan for going live. You cannot just sign your data and go live with them from one moment to the other. You have to plan, test, and then check, and then go live with your implementation. Then there are issues that have to be considered when you want to make changes, and a lot of people talked about this the previous yesterday. So when you change a registrar, what is the procedure that you have to follow when you change a registrar? what procedure you have to follow when you go from signed to assigned. What procedure you have to follow if you wanna change the domain holder. And these are the considerations that have to be made. This good practices guide, of course, it wouldn't be a good practices guide if recommendations were not given. We're giving a lot of recommendations in that guide, but there is no time for that now. So I'm briefly going into the considerations that have to be made. Now, moving to the considerations that have to be made when you're validating DNS queries. The resources are important there, as already said. And then there is an issue on configuring trust anchors. Is the DNS root trust anchor enough? Will there be islands that need to have their trust anchors configured? And then there is the issue that of the routers, firewalls, and other network equipment, and how do they handle DNSSEC. There are several problems there regarding the eDNS0 fallback to TCP, especially for a big operator, network operator. These things have to be carefully considered and decided upon deploying. Another issue is selecting a product and the cost that is associated with DNSSEC deployment. As I already told you, ENISA had done a study on the cost of DNSSEC deployment. This study is available online. You can see clearly there that there is a trend. The trend is that those that are pioneers paid the bill, and those that are following can have products ready, available, and only do customizations to deploy DNSSEC. There are few issues if you want to buy a commercial off-the-shelf product. First of all, I would like to mention that there is a report from .SC that it was recently updated.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we have links from that in our study, and also we have links for the tools that Ras was mentioning earlier. You have to buy a product that integrates in your architecture. You don't want to rebuild your architecture from the beginning. And of course, the products have also to allow for auditability, meaning to be able to audit the implementation that you have done. A very important thing is when you outsource. When you outsource, a lot of things have to be considered when you want to change a DNS provider. There are procedures that have to be followed there, and studies going on how to proceed. So I would like to thank the contributors, Anne-Marie, who is here, Olaf, who is here, and all the rest that are listed, that created the report itself. ENISA edited. And here are the resources where you can find the report and our other material. Thanks.
Thanks. Before applause that he needs. But I have a question from here, from Ross, that I would like to, it is very important to have this exchange of views, especially when looking at tools and experiences, and then this comment might be a subject for a future development of relations and so on. I want to be that this is short and not open, okay, too much.
Yeah, the question that I have with respect to the studies and the activities all surrounding the DNSSEC practices is, since the purpose of DNSSEC is to ensure that the content of the zone is in fact correct, are there plans to do similar studies, develop recommendations and procedures for the actual content of these same zones to make sure that in fact the content itself is put in and handled and managed correctly?
Well, ENISA's driving force is the community itself. So if the community asks us, and the member states or the businesses of the EU ask us to follow up on that subject, we will be very happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. so much. Then we may conclude these sessions. I was wishing to ask for comments just as appeals, to suggestion to Andrea to close the meeting, but I see Andrea there, and then it's better to call him that will make the final notes before closing. Thank you. Okay.
Steve wants to.
Okay, Steve.
So I wanted to ask a question, and I wanted to say thank you, particularly to you, Panos. Sorry. Around the world, we have some implementation of DNSSEC on every continent. We have actually the most implementations in Europe. So I was curious what ENISA is doing with respect to the European adoption, because in many ways it's pretty far along. Do you have a list of the countries that you're paying attention to as part of your portfolio? I mean, you're in very good shape, I would think, in some sense. And the other thing I wanted to say, which I'll squeeze in, is I greatly appreciate your patience as the very last presenter here, and excellent job.
Thanks, Steve. ENISA has a lot of interaction with with all the TLDs in Europe. We try to follow sender meetings a lot. We have this expert group that I mentioned, where we have participants from Sweden, we have participants from Bulgaria, we have participants from Denmark, we have participants from the Czech Republic, and probably Greece and other countries as well. And we are really open. We are really open. We are really open to cooperate with the community. And we try to get input from them in order to process things. ENISA's role is to be an advisory body to the Commission and to the Member States. And that's what we are trying to do there.
Okay. The session, and leave to Andrea the closing.
Oh, you can stay. You can stay. I just want to spend a comment on ENISA, and again add a commitment from my side. I always appreciated what ENISA has been doing since its creation. In particular, I mean, in the last couple of years, I think that ENISA played a very important role in Europe to raise the awareness, to help the operators, the governments, and the European Commission in understanding the importance of these topics. I think that, and we all agree that with the DNSSEC implementation, we are at the beginning. And it's not enough what we are doing. We need to promote other initiatives, in particular to involve not only the TLDs, but also the registrars and the operators. So I already told Panos that we will keep in touch with ENISA, with the director of ENISA, and we will try to coordinate our initiatives with their initiatives as much as possible. We had a chat also this morning with Rita Forsi from the Ministry of Economic Development to work also at the Italian level to promote, to raise the awareness, to help the operators understand what's beyond the DNSSEC and not to see it just as a simple, technical upgrade to their infrastructure. I want to close this meeting again with a very deep thank you to everybody, the people that has been working behind the scene to organize these events in a very few weeks, people that have been attending long conference calls, weekly conference calls to put this first event together. Steve, Jody, Russ, Doug, Stefano, Massimo that worked with me to the organization of this workshop, Andrea Pellino that tried to do miracles here to get this meeting room that it's the first time that hosts such an event. I mean, with requirements that were not usual for the typical events at least held in this room. My personal comment on this workshop, it has been great. I think it has been amazing, the quantity of great things I've heard, the quality of interactions, and I'm also a little worried about the long list of actions that we have to do, and some of the actions, I mean, I will be very happy to use for the development of our strategy and work plan for GCSEC. I will inform all the participants about the publication of all the presentations. We will post not only all the sessions, as you have seen, we recorded all the sessions, so they will go live on our new website as soon as possible. There will be the PPTs. I will ask all the speakers if they have any documentation, or I know that most of the documentation is already available on the internet, but what I would like to do is just to collect the most important documents and put them together as an appendix to the PowerPoints, so that we can, just distribute it to the participants. It can be, a sort of startup guide to think about the DNSSEC deployment. We will also keep you informed on how we will follow up this workshop. For sure, I commit on the technical training that I announced yesterday, but I'm thinking that maybe there are other initiatives that we should promote even before the training to get, the operators, the TLDs, also the governments more involved and committed on this technology. So I really thank you all the participants. A lot of people have traveled to Italy, and I really hope to see you attending our next event. Thank you very much.
Let me chime in here, and Andrea covered all of the things, except that I want to put special emphasis on the enormous amount of work that Andrea Pellini and that Massimo have put into the organization on this end. A great team on the American side, Doug Mound, Jody Westby, colleague Russ Mundy and his team, and Oliver Goodmanson and others on my team, and Doug Montgomery and his colleague Scott Rose. Quite a lot of effort into the planning process. I want to say thank you, especially to all of my all of the speakers who have come from different places. It's like throwing a party with old friends. And then finally, but certainly not least, for everybody who has come and participated. We've done this to reach out and to make contact, and from my perspective, it's been enormously successful. So thank you all.
I just invite the speakers to stop by the registration desk before leaving. Thank you very much.